Good morning. Today, I put down that it would be fun to talk about handshakes again. That thing that kind of disappeared in 2020, and it's sort of back in 2021, but we're all hesitating before we stick it out there because we just don't know if somebody's going to want a fist bump or if they want a handshake. So it's almost like we ask nowadays, is it, do you shake hands? What a sad state of affairs. But I was excited when I read an article on LinkedIn today where a proud father posted about his son. And his son and he got to go to work together yesterday. And his son's, I'd say, somewhere between 10 and 12. And he's in construction. So he said, "Hey, bud, you're off school today. I got to take you to work with me today." He says, "Dress like I do." So he did. Dad wears a plaid shirt. The son wears the jean, or he wears the jeans, the nice dressy jeans. And so the son's got a plaid shirt on and the jeans, and they kind of have the same sunglasses. So it was very cute. And so the dad was surprised when he walked out of the bedroom and had the plaid shirt on, but that's not the point. The point is, he took him to two meetings and a construction site. And at each of those, as he got introduced, he stuck his hand out and shook hands. And some people don't understand the value of that, but it's something that's very, very valuable and very important for women to get right because so many people get it wrong. But I also know that men get it wrong also. So I'm not picking on anyone today, but I want to tell you the power of that young man's experience yesterday and the respect, good morning, that he got from that experience of shaking hands with other men. I can tell you what I think it was like. So, what happened for me when I learned how to shake hands? I was actually in a small town in Colorado, and I was at my grandfather's John Deere business. And I know that he was always taking moments to teach us how to be good business people. And somewhere between 4 and 5, he taught me how to shake hands. And he says, when you shake hands, he says, you got to get your hand right in there. And it's really hard to do it when you're with yourself, but you got to get it right in there and let them know you mean a handshake. And he says, your hand is so small. He said that those farmers could crush that hand. So you get it in there. You get it into here. So you don't leave it out here where they're going to squeeze your fingers. You don't do any of those things where you're not sure of yourself. You stick that hand out and you get their hand to fit in there and you shake. So I'm just a little kid, right? But I learned that and I'm doing everything to make my grandpa proud. But as an adult, when I moved into, I always got compliments from some men about my handshake. And I was in real estate and I was in business and I was making big money decisions on other people's behalf. I was a fiduciary when it came to, I'm going to spend your money to fix your property. And you got to be in there. They got to know you mean it. I closed more deals by just sticking my hand out, shaking hands, and my grip was good enough, not overly strong. I'm not squeezing, I'm just gripping. And always the eyes would go like this, like, oh, I'm working with somebody that I haven't met yet. Oh, this woman's surprising me with her strength. Oh, everything but always the comment that came out was, wow, that's a good handshake. Where'd you learn that? So I already knew I scored one. Well, it's kind of hard nowadays, isn't it, to score one? So this young boy yesterday, I celebrated with the father and I posted a comment on LinkedIn because I was so excited that his young son had that great experience of watching older men's eyes kind of pop open as he shook hands and stood his ground. He didn't need to assert himself into anything. He was just present. And it is hard, we know, to get children 10 and 12 to be present. But do you know how hard it is to get adults to be present also? So one of the things that was fun about this yesterday is I just got to celebrate my own life experiences. And I'm hoping that that life experience that that young man had yesterday serves him for a long time. It's mileage, it's experiences like that we can give our children that go the long road. It's the little pieces that you put in today that build for tomorrow. So as we all hustle and bustle, good morning, in this day and age of how are we going to do it online or whatever, sometimes I think some of us need to think about how are our posts like a handshake? Because I know I'm still working on it because it's a hard transition. And yesterday I met two people. I had to deliver some of my products to one and was somewhere else where I just met some old friends. And we all sort of had this little twitch, like should we or shouldn't we shake? Because we didn't know if we were going to be invading somebody's space anymore. That's really, really sad. I'm looking for this experience of this virus who's disrupting our ways of doing business. Even though we've all had some improvements, I want the handshake back. I want it strong. And I got to be on a good morning. I got to be on a military base once and doing some demonstrations and stuff. And I got to tell you, when somebody made a purchase or before they made the purchase, if they were even looking, I made sure I shook their hand because you know what? I closed every one of those deals, whether they were a young man or they were a retired veteran, maybe anywhere from 20 to 80 years old. Because you know, when someone like, when anyone, and I'm not talking gender here, when anyone sticks their hand out, shakes, and gives a good handshake, the attention shifts. They go, oh, this person is present. So we talk about this aspect of being present all the time. But you know, that means good eye contact. It means you listen until you let the other person finish, and you might summarize what they say before you just jump in with what you want to say. So to be present is measured in many, many ways, but I think the most powerful way of measuring presence is with the handshake. So I always offer a handshake in anything that I offer. But even though we can't touch and we're in an intimate Zoom situation, if anybody wants that intimacy of a handshake and get to know me, they just have to touch successwithmarla.com and set a time and get on my mail list and figure out how can we show people that you are present for them when your handshake is missing. What is it? So that young man, I can't even imagine how far off the ground he was walking yesterday, because he probably understood the appreciation he was getting from the other men. But what he didn't know is his dad also rose in estimation. So in others, we all know we go out and we have criteria by which we value people. And even though we've had a great experience with someone, we know them well, when we see how they're raising their kids, there's another big margin of impressiveness that comes in. And I don't mean impressiveness like you're going to get big applause from a stage. I just mean that memory will stick with those men about how his son behaved with them. And they will appreciate him for the strength and the courage and the warmth and the compassion he has to raise his son. So when I look at a handshake, that handshake, that experience with my grandfather, and knowing that my mother shook people's hands the same way, watching the decisiveness people have when you shake a hand really well and people get who you are, or they get a part of you. They get that you're at least there, ready to listen, ready to see what you can do, and you can close the handshake. My grandfather said, he says, and we're talking, 30s, 40s, and 50s. He says, I do all my deals with a handshake first. And he says, we have paperwork. Do you know what my grandfather did for his paperwork? It was a little slip of paper. It might be like this, right? And he'd write out the deal on this paper and sign his name and have them sign theirs. And that was the deal. That was the deal. No big, lengthy contracts. And you know, when my grandfather made a contract with his community to be a leader in that community and provide the farm equipment that he did, he also knew that he couldn't just sit there in the store and wait for the buyers to come in. He made the rounds every morning at 4 a.m. for some of the guys who came into town to eat breakfast before they headed out to the fields, because that was the coffee morning, 4 a.m. So he went to two places. He went to Lil's and he went to Tony's. And then at 6 a.m., you'd see him on his sofa taking a nap before he went down to the store at 7. So he taught me a lot. He taught me a lot about how do you meet people where they are. He taught me that with the handshake. He taught me with that, with how he did his business and when he was present for where his clients were. So when we're on Facebook or we're on LinkedIn, we're trying to do the same thing. We're trying to be present where our clients are. But we need to bring the handshake. We need to bring the familiarity of having coffee. And we don't do that in spammy posts. We do that by the stories we share about ourselves, about our interactions, about how we're doing business, about how we help others. It's such a potpourri of choices and options. But I want to say, if you haven't taught your children how to shake hands really well, call me up. I love to teach little kids to shake hands. And you know what? They're not too young to learn. I think I learned, I was somewhere between 3 and 5, but I remember my grandfather telling me, and I was probably 5 then, because I got to sit on the counter at the John Deere place. And when the farmers would come in, my mom is there, she's working, but I'm sitting on the counter, which is raised up. It's probably 7 feet off the ground. And I'm shaking hands. I'm just sticking my hand out there, shaking hands with those farmers, because that was fun. And Grandpa told me to do it. When you do what Grandpa tells you to do. And then you learn quickly that Grandpa gave you the best secret of your life. So I'm celebrating that man who took his son to work yesterday, and the son had that same beautiful experience that I had with my grandfather. And so, all of you, I wish you well today, and I hope you get to share something with your children that serves them well in the business world in the future, because we can always use great examples of being present, confident, and warm and open to new people.